Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today I'm playing a bit of Painter. It's been a while since I've played Painter on the channel. I know a lot of you love it, and it is a really cool deck, as well as being one of the main players in the format right now. So, this deck, called Painters, refers to Painter's Servant. So this turns all cards the colour of your choice, as well as whatever colours they are. And this means all the cards in our opponent's library will be the same colour. So we target them with a Grindstone, this mills them for 2, and if those are the same colour cards, we repeat this process. So there's a 2-card combo that mills your opponent's entire library. We're trying to power this out with a little bit of fast mana using our Ancient Tombs and City of Traitors, along with some Spirit Guides and Lotus Petals. We've got ourselves Goblin Engineer to tutor up our bits and pieces here. This particular list is not running any Goblin Welders. I found this in the deck dumps of the challenges. I thought it was an interesting build. We have Fable the Mirror Breaker as our sort of mid-range plan that helps us dig to other stuff, can start copying engineers and doing a bunch of stuff that way, which is pretty cool. We also have ourselves the Phyrexian Dragon Engine here, which allows us to bring it back with the engineer and draw a bunch more cards and refill our hand. Speaking of refilling our hand, this particular build has 4 copies of the One Ring. A very powerful card, obviously. It's something that we can get away with the engineer, so we can't bring it back with the engineer, but we can sacrifice it to bring back other things, which is fine. And because we're running Painter, we get to run a bunch of Pyroblasts and Red Blasts, which is why this deck is quite good at the moment, because it's pretty tasty into Psychic Frog when you're running 6 1-mana Vindicates for Psychic Frog. We've got 4 Vexing Baubles here as well to make sure our spells resolve, and then we can filter these out with our engineers and get things going that way. We've got ourselves one of Saga Lantern to find off of our Urza Saga package. Urza Saga also being a decent part of our mid-range plan because we have enough artifacts to make these a reasonable size, and then this alongside the Fable gives us like that nice mid-range punch with the Fury to blow up any little creatures that get in our way. This particular build has 2 Abrades as removal instead of anything like Lightning Bolt. This is an interesting one, can hit some creatures or artifacts as you would imagine. Be interesting to see what targets become apparent to us on this one. We'll find out soon. Then we have, in our mana base, a beautiful selection of nothing but mountains for our main mana generating capabilities here for red mana. We have 2 Great Furnaces, though, which allow us to cycle things in and out with the Engineer. And we have 1 Arena of Glory. This is a new one you might not have seen. It enters tapped unless you control a mountain. So we've got a lot of mountains to support this. And it taps a red, or we can tap 1 red and exert it to make red. And if we spend it on a creature, that creature gains haste. So we can give an Engineer haste, so we can immediately play it and activate it on the same turn, which is really potent here. Exert means it doesn't untap during its next untap step, in case you are unfamiliar with the mechanic. And that is the deck. Sideboard-wise, we've got some interesting tools here. And we've kind of got this package of Blood Moons. So we've got 3 Blood Moons and 2 Magus of the Moon, and this 1 City of Traitors. Now, we're going to be boarding this in when we want to be trying to make early Blood Moons. That's what this card is for. So the idea is, alongside our other City of Traitors and Ancient Tombs, we've got Lotus Petals, we've got the Simian Spirit Guides. Making a turn 1 or 2 Blood Moon goes up in possibility if we have the City of Traitors, and that's going to be really good to shut the door on some matchups. We have an Ensnaring Bridge for any aggro matchups where we just want to keep them at bay. We've got 4 Pyrogoyf, which is a creature that we can win the game with behind our own Ensnaring Bridge. So this can kill creatures, but it can also go to face. So we can sit behind our Ensnaring Bridge and just keep like playing a Pyrogoyf and just copying it with the Fable the Mirror Breaker until our opponent dies, which is pretty cool tech. Graveyard Hate, we've got 3 Faerie Macabre, and we've got a Pithing Needle that can be another Urza Saga target for when we need to shut something down. And that is the list. It's a slightly unusual Painter build because it doesn't have the Welders, which is why I wanted to put it on the channel and see how it felt. I think this came second in a challenge, or possibly 2 challenges, so it's clearly got the chops, and I do like playing Painter. There's lots of intricate decisions. It's the most blue feeling non-blue deck to me because there's lots of small little decisions to make here. And if you're interested in Painter content, there is a great Painter player called Lightwalker, and they've got a channel, just Lightwalker, and they play a lot of Painter content if you want to see more of the little scarecrow in action. Alright, remember to like and subscribe, and if you'd like to see my content early and support my channel for just £1 a month, you can see my content early and support my channel. So become a YouTube member if that appeals to you. Alright, plug over and done with, let's start painting things. Right, we're into the first round. Our hand is a little bit of an awkward one. If these Pyroblasts are good, then our hand absolutely slaps. But if they're not, then we could be on a bit of a slow one here. I think we can probably do a bit better than this. I do like the tools we have at our disposal, but I just don't know if these Red Blasts are going to be useful. And Phyrexian Dragon Engine isn't really something we want, so we're going to send this one back. If our opponent is just mono Psychic Frogs, then we're going to feel sad that we threw this one away. Right, this is much more like it in my opinion. We can keep this. I'd rather have permanent mana sources than the Spirit Guide here. Although we could ramp out turn 1 Engineer. What does that actually do for us if we don't have other artifacts? I think I'll just put back the Spirit Guide for now. We can go Mountain into Engineer, and that gives us a choice of whether or not we're doing Saga stuff. Alternatively, we can go Mountain into the Painted Servant on turn 2 instead, and that gives us access to the combo. We could even go turn 1 Saga, turn 2 Mountain, Painter, turn 3 combo our opponent. It just depends what our opponent is doing, so let's see what their first turn holds. Alright, kind of would have been nice to have those Pyroblasts, I guess. Right, they left the card on top with their Undercity Sewers. Am I just playing out this Saga? That does show our opponent we're up to no good. Is this going to be a fair blue-black matchup or an unfair blue-black matchup? If it's unfair, then we're going to want to play the Saga out as soon as possible. If it's fair, then we maybe want to get the constructs off the Saga. So that leaves us thinking, which is the worst case scenario for us? The worst case scenario, I think, is if they're unfair, which means I think I'm going to play out the Urza Saga and get ticking this way. This gives us turn 3 Graveyard Hate or turn 3 Grindstone. A Ponder from our opponent. That doesn't tell us anything more about what our opponent's deck is. A Wasteland. So there goes our Saga. This is statistically more likely to be the fair deck. The unfair deck is now trimmed to usually 3 Wastelands. Do I want to just play out another Saga? Are we on the same plan or not? I think we're going to slow it down here and just play this Mountain out now. And then we can sort of grind a little bit of value off this Saga potentially. We could play an Engineer into a Daze, or we could just hold up our mana. We'll see what we draw and see if that changes things. Getting Dazes out of our opponent's hand would be very useful when we're trying to resolve a One Ring later on. Psychic Frog. That still doesn't tell us which flavour of blue-black our opponent is playing. Because even in the combo we reanimated deck, Psychic Frog is the best card in it. Aha. A Vexing Bauble, you say. Around a Daze, you say. I will take this. So this will shut down 3 Dazes and Force of Wills. So they might be inclined to respond to this one, depending on how much permission they have in hand. Right, they're going for a Daze here. I will pay for this. We're not doing anything else with that turn. They didn't return the Undercity Sewers. We're going to see a second Daze. Alright, they just wanted to tap us out. I think they should have returned the Undercity Sewers. At least they're getting a little bit of selection out of the deal. But we don't know what's in our opponent's hand, so it might not be correct based on what they're trying to resolve next turn. Our opponent will be drawing extra cards from this Frog. What we're hoping here is that our Vexing Bauble blanks those extra cards. A Wasteland. Goodbye, Urza Saga. That is an awkward one. That explains why they didn't do the bouncing of the Undercity Sewers. Because they had a play they wanted to make alongside the Wasteland. So, what are we doing now? It's probably getting this Engineer in. This can find us a Grindstone, or it can find us just something we don't care about because of the Nile Spellbomb. Which of these options do I actually want here? I don't really want to put one of our Grindstones in because our opponent will just Spellbomb it. Although, if we put a Grindstone in, maybe we tax our opponent's mana and they're just going to hold up this black all the time. But they don't need to pay the black for the spell and they can just crack it. So I think we're probably best off putting something that we don't really want to draw into our graveyard here. Or we need to put something that's good enough to tempt our opponent. I think that's probably the Dragon Engine here. I think that's good enough to make our opponent want to hold up this Bauble without reducing our amount of combo pieces in the deck. We already have a draw engine, so putting this other draw engine in is fine, especially since we're going to be able to cast this next turn and we're protected against counter magic via this Bauble. But we are falling behind because of Psychic Frog. If we'd have kept that first hand with 2 Pyroblasts, then we would have been in a better shape. Unfortunately, I don't think we can block this. A Ponder. Yeah, so the good thing about Spellbomb is it can just be there to exile a graveyard. You don't have to pay the black mana. They don't have to hold up black mana. They can just keep their tempo going with this Frog beaten down. See what land our opponent has to play. A Flooded Strand. So we could see something like a Spell Pierce. It's unusual in these decks, but not impossible. We're just going to see... Okay, they're just cracking the Spellbomb now and drawing a card. So this means our One Ring will resolve. We've successfully baited our opponent to mess with our graveyard here. Now, obviously, this cantrips, and it's not exactly a problem for our opponent, really, that they've done that. But there's no way they can interact with this One Ring on the stack. And the One Ring does a ridiculous amount of work. We will draw from this now, because we don't know if our opponent's got Bowmaster or something in their deck, so we may as well just take our card. And given this current situation, I'm going to get in for 1 point of damage because we're certainly not blocking. We're not doing anything else with our Engineer. So we've got a Saga. That's another way towards Grindstone. Okay, I guess it isn't unless they take out our... Alright, they're taking out our city. That's 3 wastelands. Understood. Let's draw some cards first. They do have the Bowmaster. It's pretty good here. They do have a Bowmaster. Okay, that's certainly awkward. So we're going to lose our Engineer. So our opponent is definitely on the fair side of the Psychic Frog style decks. So we're going to lose our Engineer and take 1 here. But we have the Arena of Glory, which we might be able to utilize at some point soon. So we can take out the Psychic Frog. That's a given. We could play the Saga out and get that ticking. I think I will deploy the Painter now. We'll name blue. So we can get rid of the Bowmasters to turn our One Ring back on. Or we can get rid of the Psychic Frog. We kind of need to survive a few more turns. Another Wasteland. Alright, that's the full 4 Wastelands. Understood. So now we're highly incentivized to kill this Bowmasters. Okay. Let's destroy target permanent if it's blue. I think we get rid of the Bowmasters here. If they have another Fatal Push, that's obviously bad for us. Alright. So we lose the Painter. But this means our One Ring is back in business and we can catch up with the card advantage that our opponent's been generating from the Psychic Frog. And our opponent is just, you know, attacking us with creatures and dealing damage, whereas we have the ability to combo over the top of that. Right, so discarding some cards to increase their clock. Force of Will is gone. Underground Sea is gone. We can obviously ring into more rings and buy ourselves time with protection. Alright, a Daze is gone as well. They're just going in on the Frog. And an island. 1 card left in our opponent's hand. I wonder what that 1 card is. It's going to go up to 2 cards. This is just making themselves have a 2-turn clock, which is sensible. Obviously, we have the One Ring that's going to need to be good here. Alright. Foe the Mirror Breaker is not good enough in this situation. We need another copy of the One Ring. We don't have another copy of the One Ring. How do we best what our opponent has in front of us? We probably have to sacrifice the Vexing Bauble to find a Pyroblast. Trying to think of any other ways that we can get through. Because this is going to fly, so we're not going to be able to block this, and they can pump it, so this is lethal on its own. Although the Orc Army is lethal on its own as well, isn't it? Right, let's just draw a card, see what we find, and then we can make some decisions. The decision is probably going to be hitting the scoop button. And Abrade, that's not good enough here. Alright, if we'd have kept our double Pyroblast hand, we probably would have been alright there. But if we were against most other matchups, we would have a horrible time. So, what is useful in this matchup? That is a tough call here. So, like these moon effects, they can mess with what our opponent's doing. But it comes at the cost of our Saga, which is actually pretty good in this sort of matchup. We've already got the Red Blast, which is an excellent card in this matchup. Soulguide Lantern isn't as important because our opponent's not doing the combo thing. So we could shave on a Soulguide Lantern and get another fair creature in here, like a Pyrogoyf. And that can hold the ground and blow up some of their guys. That seems alright. Abrade isn't killing much. It's killing their Orcish Bowmasters, and that's about it. But they might have a Null Rod or something out of their sideboard, so I think we do keep the Abrades in. The Vexing Baubles are good here. I don't know if there's anything that we can cut for this Pyrogoyf. I think we kind of want the package we have here. I guess when you're against a blue deck and you've got 6 Pyroblasts in your main deck, you're kind of already built for a lot of the things you want to be doing. So we're going to go back in. We could trim something like a One Ring, but the thing we would bring in would be another 4-drop, so that doesn't really make sense. I think we're just best off leveraging our blasts and getting the game won that way. How do I feel about this? Saga. We can just do Saga beats from the off. We have a lot of lands, so we're not going to be susceptible to Wasteland. We can loot them away with a Fable. There's so many lands though. But if we treat the Saga as a spell, I still need 2-spell hand. But we have stable mana. We have an artifact, so we can start doing weldering stuff when we find an engineer. Fable resolving is going to be really key here. I think I will keep this, and we're just going to go Saga to begin with. And then we can just use the tomb and start pumping out tokens. And then we can try and work towards our Fable. Maybe I'm over-indexing onto lands because we got hit by 4 Wastelands in the previous game. Just get the Saga up and running. Would have been nice to have had a Bauble here. But what we can do is use the Saga to get a Vexing Bauble, which then turns on all of our spells through counter magic. Alright, our opponent just has a Wasteland. Okay, so now our hand is looking a little bit weaker. A Vexing Bauble though, that certainly helps. So that allows us to then play the Fable next turn through counter magic. If they counterspell this, then we probably still slam the Fable. Unless we draw something like a Pyroblast and we take it one turn slower. Because we have another basic we can deploy. The plan is to do some looting with this. Get rid of some of our excess lands. Force of Will, pitching Force of Will on our Bauble. Alright, a 1 mana Hymn to Torak, I will take that. This matchup can be pretty grindy as well, so stripping your opponent's resources like that is not nothing. But now we have to worry about a daze on our Fable. So we probably just play out the land so we can at least play around the daze. Especially since we're not under any immediate pressure. If we can find something we can drop this turn. Ooh, that's very good. So now we can play this, and if they try and daze it, we pay for the daze, and it sets them back a land, and then our tempo there is ridiculously ahead of our opponents. Or they can just have nothing, which is even better for us. So, Orcish Bowmasters, they have to play it before we do the looting. So we at least get to know if we're looting or not next turn. Alright, they're not playing a Bowmasters because they've already tapped one of their mana. So we should be able to dig a little bit with our Fable here. There is a question as to what we throw away here. It probably... Is it a Spirit Guide? Because we can always just jam a Spirit Guide, right? I think I want to loot away the Great Furnace because we already have a source of artifacts from our Goblin Shaman token. If they kill our Shaman token, then we probably have to keep the Great Furnace here. A Thought Seize. Alright, we're going to lose our Spirit Guide. And they're going to see how clutch this Fable was for us. Yes, I would very much like to use this ability. Another land. Alright, so we get rid of this Great Furnace, and it's probably the City of Traitors. We can already cast the One Ring here if we draw it. More lands, you say? Understood. Right, we're just going to play another mountain here. Didn't really want to loot 2 lands into 2 lands, but there we are. Right, Fable is still going to do some work here. It's 2 bodies, and one of the bodies gets to copy other bodies. Right, so our opponent's got a Gnarl Spellbomb, they've got a Wasteland. Wasteland not looking so good because we have access to so much mana right now. Can we draw something good here? The answer to that is no. If we attack and they have an Orcish Bowmasters, they kill our Goblin Shaman token. And we kind of would like to have additional bodies here, so I think we are just going to be playing a land and passing. What land would I like to play? That is a tougher question. I think we want to save this Arena of Glory for later. Let's see if we can bait out a Wasteland with our Great Furnace. But we can't attack into a Bowmasters here. We don't need the extra mana right now. That's the one thing we have locked down in this game is mana sources. Our opponent won't Wasteland now. They'll Wasteland in their turn. Because why wouldn't you? Unless they have a specific spell they want to try and keep us off of that would require this mana. But I don't know what that spell would be out of Painter. Alright, so they're just cycling their Gnarl Spellbomb. So from next turn, our Reflection will have the ability to copy stuff. So we can copy our Shaman. We can also copy anything that we play. Which could be pretty backbreaking for our opponent if we can get like a big Pyrogoyf down and then copy it. All of a sudden we're doming our opponent for a bunch. With this 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so they're 4, 5 if I can draw a Pyrogoyf. They shuffled off that Ponder. That's nice for us. An Underground Sea. Go for the throat. Alright, we won't be copying any of our guys. But this taps them out of potential Orcish Bowmaster, so we can attack this turn and get a little bit more damage in. Can we draw a spell? One time. This Wasteland is mean. I think we just play out on the mountain here. We've got plenty of stuff to pitch. But we're just bricking. We haven't drawn a single spell yet. Actually, that's not true. We drew a Vexing Bauble. Is the only spell we've drawn. And we've had 6 turns. So not a great hit rate given the amount of spells we have in our deck. And the fact that we've also cycled through 2 cards. But maybe that just means the rest of the draws are going to be great for us. And we can't do anything with this Saga while there's Wastelands over there, which is really frustrating. So now they have Orcish Bowmaster mana, we can't attack into it. We'll just pass. Our opponents pointed out that we seem to be drawing a lot of lands. Oh no, not our poor little Shaman token. Alright. So we don't have anything going on anymore. Not that we had very much going on, but now we are at Stone Cold Nothing. Okay. What are we going to do about this? The One Ring. Our opponent has Hardcast Force of Will mana available. We don't have anything else going on. Are we supposed to wait and draw? If they hardcast Force of Will, then we're not getting beaten down by the Borrower. Alright, it has to be a Force of Will here. Alright, we're in with the One Ring. Excellent. Let's start drawing some cards. We can start working through our opponent's Wastelands if we think that's a good idea. Not sure it is. We're not getting rid of them any other way, so we're going to start playing through them. Yeah, they're Wastelanding it now before it gets the ability to make mana. Which, if you're going to Wasteland anyway, is the correct time to do it. It just denies us that one piece of mana. We're not going to do anything in that mana, but our opponent doesn't know that because we've just played the One Ring. So I'm pretty sure our opponent doesn't have an Orcish Bowmasters now. Unless they're saving it for the second tap of the One Ring and they just want to get their Borrower or something down. Which is an unusual line, but I think it's reasonable-ish. A Brainstorm from our opponent. Would love to have some Brainstorm fetch lands of my own right now. But the One Ring should hopefully provide. A Nethergoyf. Yep. It's just the 1 mana 4/5 that comes back. So the Brazen Borrower can't hurt us this turn. The One Ring. Let's get this ticking up. Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Let's cast this one first. This Force of Negation is the thing that this could be. Hydroblast, that's also pretty good. Right, let's exert this. Got another Hydroblast. That'd be very good here. So what they can do is they can kill this on the stack with its trigger on. Because we don't have anything to put in right now. Right, we get to put something in, do we? What do we even want here? Is it a Phyrexian Dragon Engine? I don't hate the Dragon Engine here. Just dig our way towards the combo. Let's get rid of one of these treasures. We will discard our hand and draw 3. I will play this additional Fable. That seems pretty good to me. We could have got hit by a Daze then, but I'm not expecting our opponent to have cast Brainstorm and have a Daze still in hand at this point. Okay, so we've got a decent board presence right now. We've got this Pyrogoyf that's going to be able to take out the Borrower. A Brainstorm. Sure, they didn't shuffle after last Brainstorm, so they are still seeing a similar amount of cards to what they saw last turn. They haven't got a fresh grip to have a little inspection of. Fatal Push on the Engineer. Not a surprise. I wonder if they're going to... I think I can take this. I was just saying, I wonder if they're going to try and take the Arena of Glory out. They don't need to take out now, they can wait, because it's not going to tap next turn anyway. I kind of like our hand so far. We'll see what they do with the Fable trigger. Oh, I like that too. I think we're just going to say no to this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll cast a Pyrogoyf. This is lethal if our opponent doesn't have anything. Our opponent's got 1 card in hand. They didn't Hydroblast this. They can get Revolt using the Wasteland. Right, we're getting some cost paid here. Consign to Memory. Okay. Let's try and draw a red card, please. A red Elemental Blast. We can't deal with this replicate triggers because there's too many of them. But we can play... We can blast this Borrower. We can play this Saga. We can play this Bauble. We can get attacks. I think we have to leave 2 blockers back. So I'm just going to attack for 4 here. Is that right? If we attack for... No, I think 4 is correct here. We have to be pretty careful about what our own One Ring is going to do to us. Alright, they're going to take out our Saga. Not a surprise. Alright, and now they're going to make us lose our Shaman here. But we have the win because we have a Hasty Fury. That's worked out alright for us in the end. We get down to 3 off of the One Ring. Let's land out. And let's make a Hasty Fury. That one little tech land doing quite a lot of work here. It got us the Phyrexian Dragon Engine to dig into our deck. And it also got us the winning Fury. Not bad at all. Okay, do I want to do anything differently? I kind of like the Pyrogoyf quite a bit here. It's just pretty big. But how would I fit some more Pyrogoyfs in? I think we need... If we're having the One Ring, we want to have all 4 because we need to be able to get rid of the One Ring when it's bad. We didn't see any sort of... Null Rod. That doesn't mean they don't have it. But maybe I want this Pyrogoyf in. It makes us slightly worse to Bowmasters. But just makes us better in the mid-game. Alright, I can go with that. Because the Abrade's not going to be killing a Psychic Frog. It's just the Bowmasters that it kills most of the time. They might have a Tamiyo, but we already have a bunch of Red Blast for that. Yeah. This hand looks pretty good. I'll keep this. If they don't play a 1-drop, we can play the Saga. But if they do play a 1-drop, we probably have to play the Mountain. Because otherwise, they're just going to have pressure on board that's uncontested. So we'll see what they play. If they play like a Nethergoyf or something here, then we're probably on the Mountain. Yeah, Nethergoyf. We need to make sure we can start playing our spells. Do I want to Fury this away while I can? Or not? Tricky. If we Fury and hit this now, that saves us some pain later on. Alternatively, we could play the Engineer ahead of Curve, but we don't have any artifacts to make that work. I think we're just going to use this to make sure that we can resolve our Fable through a Daze next turn. I think that's the play. And if that doesn't work, then maybe we're doing Fury stuff. Nethergoyf only counts our opponent's graveyard, so us putting the Fury in the bin shouldn't matter here. Right, they're only getting in for 1. That's good. May all your creatures be 1 power. Right, a Wasteland. No blue mana over there, so no Dazes. It's just Force of Will we have to look out for. Okay, let's try and get this Fable in. Right, we're just in with the Fable. Do I want to try and Fury our opponent's creature here? We can hardcast the Fury next turn if they don't Wasteland. I think we're okay. It's just a 1-2 for now. Famous last words and all that. We're probably going to see a removal spell on our guy. Yep, a push. So that's going to make their creature a 2-3. And they're going to take rid of our Ancient Tomb. Okay. So we don't really want our opponent to find a sorcery here. Psychic Frog. A Petty Theft. Okay. So now Daze is online. So we're probably looking at this Fury. Pitching. I think it's the Spirit Guide here. And then we cast the Engineer. We can go and get Painted Servant. So the reason we get Painted Servant here is if we're trying to play through removal, it means we get to flip the Painted Servant into another Painted Servant in response to their removal. Psychic Frog, sure. And the Grindstone is not something they get to interact with very easily here. Alright, we drew a Grindstone anyway, sure. What do we want? Our opponent's got 1 card in hand over there. Let's cast Painted Servant. We'll name blue. And now we'll get this Grindstone in. They can Daze this. They did not Daze it. So next turn, we go and get a Lotus Petal from this. Then we can Grindstone our opponent with a red mana to flip our Painted Servant into the other Painted Servant if they have removal here. Hence the line we played towards earlier by getting the second Painter. Not really done a lot of red blasting in this particular game. Or match even. Sure, they want the extra card. Another Psychic Frog. 2 cards left in our opponent's hand. What are you going to do with that under 6-0's opponent? If it's just a Fatal Push, that's not good enough. Alright, so we're going to tutor from our Saga here. Go and get a Lotus Petal. And then we have to use our mana right now. Can I Grindstone you out? If I kill the Painter, or try to kill the Painter, we swap it out. A Dismember. Surgical Extraction's good here. Alright, we got the GG's. I like our line of the Painter, the second Painter coming back to actually win us the game there. Although, what I will say is what we could do is just turn the Grindstone into another Painter there. That is another option we have available to us. Because if they kill this, we let this die, and the trigger's still on the ability's still on stack, we can just cycle the Grindstone into the Painter. So we didn't actually need the second Painter there. It means that less things go wrong for us potentially, because we just have more Painters floating around, and it's easier to go again if they somehow manage to swap this out. But maybe we didn't need to get the second Painter there, I don't know. Alright, we managed to win the first match. Let's go to round 2. Alright, we've got a turn 2 Fable the Mirror Breaker into turn 3 One Ring. That sounds acceptable to me. We're on the play as well. Maybe we'll get a nice target for this Pyroblast early doors. Something like a Tameo. I'd certainly snap that off on a Tameo. But our mana's going to be spoken for turn 2 and 3. I don't think we crack this Pyroblast off on a Ponder necessarily, but maybe we do. We'll see what vibes we get when the time comes. Not enough people Pyroblast cantrips, as a general rule. Like the amount of times you find yourself casting cantrips going, I really hope this doesn't get countered. And your opponent just has no idea. A Tropical Island. A green spell. Alright. So this is most likely to be Nadu combo. That's the most popular deck with this sort of start. But that doesn't mean it's the only deck. Ooh, a Fury. That'll be useful later on. Let's try this Fable. Alright, we'll pass it over. Could be something like Infect. But I am suspecting Nadu Chord. Seems like the Chord build is what most people are playing these days. Come on, play more stuff into my Fury, please. Birchlaw Rangers, sure. We can hardcast this Fury next turn. An Allosaurus Shepherd. One more? Go on, play one more creature. These Nadu decks do not run counter magic in the main deck. The build of Nadu that does run counter magic tends to be... Oh, this is going to be so savage. Yeah, so the Nadu build that do tend to be more like blue-white control-y, like Splash in the combo, whereas this is obviously a very heavily green-oriented deck. So we're going to have a pretty scary blowout for our opponent. What are you going to find? A Savannah. Going to play a Nomads? If they plow our Shaman or something like that. Alright, another guy. Sure. We're going to have a good time. That's what you're telling me. It's not often you get a 5-for-1 with a Magic the Gathering card. But we're about to. We don't need a second One Ring in this matchup. I do want to make a land drop, so I think we're just going to just keep our guaranteed really good play here. Let's attack, get our treasure. I guess this cost us our City of Traitors, but boy howdy is this going to be worth it. Just in case our opponent's got some weird thing where we need to play around days, we will play this out. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is not what our opponent wants to see. We can also Pyroblast if they are playing some sort of counterspell build. We're going to kill everything but the... Is it but the Allosaurus Shepherd, I think? We're definitely killing the Noble Hierarchs and the Quirion Ranger. Are we killing the Allosaurus Shepherd so we can Pyroblast the Nardu? That feels like a disgusting thing to do. And pretty soon we're going to be able to Fable the Mirror Breaker and copy our Fury. I think our opponent might be in the process of packing this one in quite soon. There we go. Yeah, that may be the single best Fury I've ever cast. It felt pretty damn strong. So, what are we doing? Our opponent's mana base is very susceptible to moon effects, but they also have a bunch of mana dorks. So we need to make sure we've got removal for the mana dorks and also have the ability to deploy our moons. I think we're probably getting rid of baubles here. They're not big into counter magic. And what do we want here? We don't need a Soul Guide Lantern either. We can probably trim on the combo a fair bit here. We're going just like fairing removal their stuff. So we trim these sorts of things. Then what we look at, 3 more cuts to fit all this in. I'd love to have some more removal, but that's just not a thing we have, unfortunately. The blasts are okay. They hit exactly Nardu, but that's not really amazing, to be honest with you. I'm going to trim a couple of blasts. And then... Is an Engineer? So the Pithing Needle can name nomads. And that's just a nice thing that we can find. I think that's okay. I like the One Rings quite a lot here. Fables are expensive, but makes sense. Maybe we just trim 1 more Painter. And we just rely on our Engineer to tutor for us when we're ready. It's an interesting take. Maybe we could get rid of one of the Pyroblasts. What does this do? This is turn 2 Magus of the Moon. So we might be able to shut our opponent's mana off. They're going to play a Mana Dork on 1. Oh, that's not the one you wanted, though. Okay, so we have to see what their turn 2 is. Some sort of blue spell like Pyroblast would be nice. An Elvish Herder. Okay, this is fine. This doesn't generate mana. And they're going to play a Mana Dork. A Green Sun Zenith. We don't get to do anything about that. Is this going to be a Dryad Arbor? It is. Alright, so our Magus of the Moon is going to be pretty savage here. Our opponent's removal as well is the Source to Plowshares rather than like a Dismember. So this will lock our opponent out in a big way. Say hello to my Magus of the Moon. Alright. So now we have a 2-2 in the Kingdom of 1/1s. They have 3 mountains in their Bant deck. I wonder if our opponent's going to be done with us soon. We are absolutely windmilling haymakers into them right now. Yes, your Dryad Arbor is still a creature, but it is a mountain creature. I think we'll just play this Engineer here. What is the get? Like, we can't actually bring any of these things back yet. I don't really want to put one of our combo pieces in case it's just gone forever, but I don't think we need our combo pieces to win. So maybe it's just a Dragon Engine, and we can rebuy that for some cards later on. So we have a 2-2 and a 1-2, and all of our opponent's creatures are 1/1s. I like the situation. They can still sacrifice lands, so our removal is not great here, but we can Pyroblast a Nardu on the stack if they manage to do that. Alright, they've just had enough with us. I don't blame them. We absolutely slaughtered them in 2 games, and our big haymakers were big haymakers. No need to do Paint of Servant stuff when you can just get a 5-for-1 with Fury, or shut down your opponent's 4 lands immediately with a Magus of the Moon. Alright, let's go to round 3. Right, we're into round 3. Okay. This one looks pretty good to me. I guess we keep this one. We probably go Saga, Vexing Bauble. Turn 2, Painter. Turn 3, try and kill our opponent. That's certainly a thing we're allowed to do. Although we might need to take a break a little bit and leverage a Pyroblast, but we'll see how things transpire on our opponent's turn. Let's hope our opponent is relying on counter magic here, or they're a combo deck that relies on 0 drops. Either way, the Vexing Bauble can do some work here. Wasteland. Alright. Are they just going to let us get this Saga going? They are. Okay, I think I would like to play this Ancient Tomb. Would you like us to get some Saga constructs out of this one or not? We're going to see a cycle for a Troll of Khazad-dûm. So we're looking at blue-black Rescaminator. So they shouldn't be able to reanimate anything apart from this troll this turn. I will make a guy. Get a little bit of pressure. The more damage we do to our opponent, the... No, surely not. That feels like a weird wasteland. We're already ahead on board. The more damage we do to our opponent, the harder it is for them to make any reanimation spells useful. So now we get to play a second Bauble, and we're cracking for 4 a turn. So this is quite quickly going to shut down our opponent's reanimation lines. And then we can jam a Painter's Servant next turn, and that gives us another point of power on our construct. Our opponent is quite far behind here. We'll jam this one. And then blue. So they might have a Fatal Push to stop this construct. But then that leaves us with a Painter's Servant that's threatening to kill them in other ways. Nope, they don't have anything. Okay. An Entomb. So if they get an Atraxa here, that's not actually very good for them because we can just blast out of the way. So they probably have to get a Archon. And then we have a choice between which creature we sacrifice then. Because we can keep the Painter around to enable combos and also allow us to blast the Archon. I just got the Atraxa. I don't think this is going to work for our opponent the way they want it to. Because they reanimate this. If they have an Animate Dead, I guess it's not so bad. Alright, so it has to be a Reanimate now. And they don't get to play any of the cards that they get off the Atraxa because of the Baubles. So if they reanimate this, they'll take 7. And then we'll just Pyroblast it and kill them. Alright, just a Ponder. They shuffled off that Ponder. Okay. We get to bash for at least 6. So that shuts off Reanimate. I think we're just going to hold up the Pyroblast here. Okay, opponent. It's got to be pretty darn good to beat this. We can Pyroblast any spell on the stack because of Painter's Servant. Psychic Frog. Just say no to that, and we have lethal. They can't reanimate. They can reanimate the frog, I guess. But that puts them to 2. And then they scoop it up. Yep, as I thought. So, what do we want to do about this one? I would like some Faerie Macabres. That seems like a good place to be here. Do I want this Blood Moon plan or not? So the Pyrogoyfs aren't going to do a great deal against what our opponent's got going on. The Ensnaring Bridge, though, is a useful one. So Vexing Bauble is very good. Saga Lantern, very good. Engineer, Pyroblast, these are all pretty handy. Do we want Fury? What are we actually killing with a Fury? Very little. So I think the Furies can become Fairies. And then we need to find 2 more cuts for these 2 cards. Dragon Engine is fine if this game gets grindy because we lock down their graveyard. That's a nice thing to have. We can probably trim on Painted Servants because our blasts are already good. Are we trimming on Grindstone or are we just going to have 2 and 2? I think we just have 2 and 2 for now. We'll keep the Abrades in case they've got something like Null Rod. Also shuts down Doubtful Voidwalker if they've got that sort of pivot. We can do Urza Saga stuff. We can threaten a kill. I think this is fine. I don't think it beats our opponent's best hands, but I think it goes pretty even with their average hands. We can try and Goldfish here, but there is an issue with that if our opponent just goes Entomb, Reanimate. Okay, so they weren't entombing us. So no Archon of Cruelty. We're going to see a Wasteland here, or not. A Ponder first, so they could be digging for the Wasteland, which is a sensible thing to do in the face of an Urza's Saga. But we can then play another Saga, and because our opponent isn't on board with anything, that sort of loss of a turn of tempo doesn't really make a difference because we just kind of exchanged a turn back and forward if they have the Wasteland. They did not shuffle. They did not play a Wasteland either. So I play this Ancient Tomb to play around Days. We don't need to activate this to put the Painter in because we can play the Painter next turn and still have 3 mana because of our Ancient Tomb. So I think we just get a Saga token. So we've got a little bit of breathing room in the face of a Archon of Cruelty trigger. If they untap, reanimate. If they reanimate in our Entomb and then reanimate in their turn, then they'll probably win this game, but it's not guaranteed. All right, no Entomb. This is going to be surveying off of a fresh deck, so... All right, nothing there. Good. You can do the trick where you fetch your Surveil land in response Brainstorm, so you can surveil the card into the graveyard. It's a cool bit of tech that does come up. So thinking about how we lose this game, we probably lose this game to reanimate shenanigans. So we probably are incentivized to... All right, we've got a Bowmasters here to kill our guy. That's fine. So like I say, we're probably incentivized to not get the Grindstone off of this one and get the Grindstone off the next one and just get the Soulguard Lantern so we don't lose to that. Gonna get the Soulguard Lantern. Get rid of this Ponder. I will play out an Urza Saga here. So we can just keep making constructs until we have a plan that is better than their fair plan. Right, Brainstorm from our opponent. So if we make 2 more constructs, we'll end up with 3 5/5s, and that's going to be better than any of our opponent's non-graveyard lines. Psychic Frog could be an issue, but that's what the Red Elemental Blast is for. We don't have any like Lava Spur Boots or Shadow Spear to do anything with. An Unlicensed Hearse, sure. Don't really care about that one until it starts crewing. A Nile Spellbomb, sure. You can ignore our graveyard as much as you like. I am a little concerned about our Ancient Tombs. So let's resolve. So we can make a guy and attack. So they can make this a 2-2 if they want to. I'll play a Mountain out. So they can make this a 2-2 and then they can trade. No, they can't trade because they have to crew it with both things. Alright, so we get the 3 damage in. And the next turn we can try and Painter kill them if we want with the Red Blast up. This is Painter. So yeah, this is Painter mana here. This is Grindstone mana. This gets the Grindstone. This is the Blast. And that gives us Blast around days. So I think we're doing alright. Alright, they are cycling the Nile Spellbomb. That shows us that our opponent is in a slight bit of bother. Yeah, we kind of slap around our opponent's fair plan relatively well. Like the regular blueback tempo has a better fair plan than the sort of Reanimator build for obvious reasons. But it's the actual Reanimator plan that we're more scared of. But like I said, we've got the tools to beat it. We can race it with Painter stuff, or we can manipulate their graveyard using things that pop out of Urza Saga, as well as our Faerie Macabre. No Wasteland here, that's good news for us. Psychic Frog, that's fine. I think we just go for a Painter kill here. Consign to Memory here could be pretty good. Oh, they didn't replicate it though. Should have replicated it unless you got another one. Get a Grindstone. Do we play out this Ancient Tomb? Just have a lot more mana to defend ourselves here. So if we just Grindstone them now, then they get us. So we probably have to leave it a turn. We've got 2 cards in hand. We'll swing with a 5-5. Because they're not expecting us to be able to Grindstone from where we are. So our Simian Spirit Guide to Grindstone at instant speed when hopefully they try and cast a Fatal Push in our end step or something. That is the plan here. Unlicensed Hearse, be my guest. 2 cards in hand. We're threatening lethal damage and the Grindstone kill. Gaining Flying with the Frog. Are we supposed to deal with this now or not? I don't think we're supposed to try and go for the Grindstoning here, but certainly a possibility. A Ponder. Maybe we're supposed to grind them in the upkeep. I'm kind of hoping to threaten them enough with our constructs. Let's not shuffle off that Ponder. An Engineered Explosives for 1. Okay. Do they have the Fatal Push here? They do. Alright, so we're still playing. So now we have to make the decision. Is it better to keep our 4/4s here or to wipe their graveyard? I think it's better to keep the 4/4s. Yeah, I still think it's better. There's no giant monsters in there. Actually, no, this was going, right, isn't it? What am I talking about? We just need to exile their graveyard. So those are going to be 2/2s. Maybe we lost this one for not just trying to grind them in the upkeep. Cards left in our opponent's hand. And a Abrade. So we have 4 damage that comes in here. Let's play this one out. This is 4 damage. We can make it 6 damage if we play the One Ring here. We are putting quite a lot of life into the bin here. Right, so we're in with the One Ring. Now we can attack freely with our constructs. If they animate the hearse, we blow it up. And then we force through 6 damage. Destroy target artifact, please. Daze is a bit of a blowout here. But I don't think we could play the Ancient Tomb and pay more life. Daze not great against painted decks anyway. So I'm not sure how many they're going to have in their deck at this point. Eating a couple more cards on the way out. That suggests to me that our spell is resolving. And then we're getting ourselves 6 damage onto our opponents, as well as our little bubble for turn. We can decide what we're doing with this One Ring next turn. Drawing extra cards with it into the Bowmasters doesn't feel spectacular. We ponder. But they can hold back the Frog. But then we can draw a Red Blast, that's pretty good. But I don't think we can draw a card with this One Ring. Did we let our opponent ponder into answers for our Grindstone combo? The way they left open the black mana did make me think they had the Fatal Push though. And I'd be relatively sure that that was the case. So they can't attack here. They got 3 cards in hand, so they can make the Frog big enough to eat one of our constructs. A Pyroblast. That is a good one, isn't it? Do you want to try and get the value play here? Let's see what our opponent wants to do. I think we let them pitch some cards. So this a Petty Theft. 2 cards left in our opponent's hand, so they can make this a 3/4. If I Pyroblast this, we don't have to worry about it coming down again. But we lose one of our constructs. I think we have to count this Petty Theft. Yep. So they can discard their hand to kill our construct here. And they have lethal on the backswing if they've done this right. Yeah, this is a problem, isn't it? Because they make this a 3 and then they just discard the card they draw for turn. And if we make a Fable Mirror Breaker, it won't be able to block because they'll just give their creature flying. Yeah, I think our opponent has bested us here. We got to make sure they see the line. But yeah, you can see our opponent's got basics. So I'm not really into the Blood Moon thing. Now, if you do it early enough, it can be pretty good. But they do have basic cyclers, like the Lauren Revealed. Sorry, they probably don't have Lauren Revealed. They have the, what's it called? Troll of Khazad-dûm is the one. Would you like to try and kill me? So we have 1 out here. We draw into a Pyroblast. We did not draw into Pyroblast. Okay. I think we still played that one appropriately. I just think our opponent had the removal spell there. If they didn't, then fair enough, they gamed us and we lost. But I'm pretty sure they did, the way they played. Do we need Abrades here? They haven't shown us Null Rod type stuff. But we have shown us the Hearse, which can beat our Fair Plan quite nicely. I think I like what we've got here. Am I too into the... Is it the One Ring that I like here? Or do I want some, like, Pyrogoyfs? And just have some big creatures, actually. Should we try that? I'm not sure if it's right, but I want to try it. I think these are better than Furies, because these might be able to actually kill a frog. We'll try this. If Saga's good, then it's good. We're on the play, so we get to start off with our Saga and just start grinding out tokens. If they wasteland this, then we can just pivot to Mountain, hold up Pyroblast, and then play Fable. If they don't wasteland this, then we get to make some guys. Polluted Delta. No wasteland. No 1-drop from our opponent either. They could consign to memory this trigger. They did not. Alright. They can't do the activated ability. They can only do the triggers that give it the activated ability. We're going to see an Entomb. Or is it Surveil Land? Uh-oh. Is this going to be a spell? It's a Brainstorm. Okay, that's better for us. They could still cast Entomb Reanimate on their turn, which will obviously be a problem. A Wasteland. Right, we will make a guy. This just gives us a buffer for any sack effects our opponent has. They might not be running Shoulder's Edict, but they are probably running Archon of Cruelty in their deck. Alright, so we can play out Fable here because we have a second one. I'm willing to trade some resources from our opponent. The upside of this resolving is enormous as well. Oh, wow. That's pretty good. Alright. Let's jam with a Construct. It's only 1, but it's going to grow every time we attack with our Shaman token. Next turn, we can play another Fable holding up Pyroblast. Alright, we're going to see an Entomb here. A Fatal Push. Okay. Because we lost our Urza Saga, we are a bit shields down against any sort of reanimation strategy. We could just see a Frog here. Blue-black. Here's the Frog. Alright, it's our turn now. What are we doing? We're discarding 2 mountains. That's step 1 here. Okay. I'm going to play out a mountain. And I'm going to Pyroblast this Frog. Do we get to resolve? They are binning off an Archon of Cruelty. Not a great fan of seeing that happen. I guess we play out this Fable. So that might not mean they have the reanimation spell. That might just mean that the Archon is better in their graveyard than it is in their hand. But if they've got an Animate Dead or Reanimate here, the chance of them winning the game are quite high. Don't do it to us, opponent. At least it's a Reanimate. So we probably end up losing the Construct token here. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I think we discard the Mountain. This gives us the ability to potentially draw into the combo. We are in trouble. Okay, I don't think we are discarding any cards here. So I think we'll play out this City of Traitors, so it buys us a little bit more life. Let's play out a Painter's Servant, named Blue. I think we are just destroying this Archon of Cruelty, or at least attempting to. There you got Fatal Push for our Painter's Servant. Well, that's disastrous for us. Okay, so we can take 1 more hit and then die. How do we get out of this one? Pyrogoyf is probably quite large. Maybe we cast Pyrogoyf, copy Pyrogoyf, kill our opponent. Petty Theft. Alright, that's become increasingly difficult to do because we don't get to tap our Ancient Tomb for mana anymore. And we don't get to copy our thing anymore because of the reflection of Kiki Jiki. And our opponent gains 3 life. I think we are going to consign ourselves to the dustbin in this game. Alright, they kept a card on top as well. Why not? What are we going to draw here? Painter's Servant. Let's just show ourselves a door of the Ancient Tomb. That's the end of that match. So, obviously, the game 2, where we had we went for the Painter Kill. We decided not to go for the Painter Kill because our opponent was holding up black mana. I think that was right. The mistake, I think, on our part came slightly earlier. If instead of going for the Painter Kill that turn or putting the Painter Kill on the board, if we instead just make another construct, then we end up with 3 creatures that will be 4/4s once it's all said and done. And that should be enough to win that game, I think. Because then they can't discard cards to the Frog to make that work. But if we do that, then our opponent casts the Engineered Explosives to 0 and kills all our constructs. So maybe we don't have a good route to victory there. Because we kind of diversified our mana values of stuff in play so that we could play around some stuff. And we could threaten the kill. And it just didn't come together. There might have been a case where there wasn't a line to win the game. But I definitely think we could have tried to go down the Urza Saga route. Maybe instead of... If we do the Urza Saga route and make another construct, then instead of getting a Grindstone, we could get a Vexing Bauble. We still had the Painter, so we could still Pyroblast. Actually, we don't need the Pyroblast. Actually, no. Yeah, so if we still have the Painter and we try and Pyroblast their Engineered Explosives on the stack, then they fatal push our Painter, and that doesn't work either. So I'm not sure if there was a line to navigate through that one. Maybe a more experienced Painter player would have found it, but that felt real hard, that one. Yeah, we lost to the most abundant deck in the format. Even though we've got these Pyroblasts, their deck has a lot of black spells that we can't necessarily get through. And sometimes it's just not going to work. Alright, on to round number 4. Alright, we're on the play here. This hand seems pretty good. We can sit behind a mountain for a turn cycle and then drop the Fable. Right, so we've got our mountain down. That allows us to Pyroblast something if our opponent's doing like combo Echo of Eons type nonsense. We can interfere with that. But otherwise, we're hoping to just drop the Fable next turn. But if our opponent plays blue mana source, maybe we need to wait a turn so we at least have the Pyroblast or a spare mana so we can pay through a daze or deal with the Force of Will. It depends what our opponent shows us. If they show us something where we don't have to worry about counter spells, or they show us something where we need to go fast and try and ignore what our opponent's doing and just see if we can race it, then we need to make that decision. Obviously, we won't have the most amount of information to make that decision with, but hopefully our opponent will play something this turn and we'll get a little bit of info. A Marsh Flats. Alright, we're cracking the Marsh Flats. Pyroblast might not be so good right now, but we'll see. It could just be a black fetch. A Nether Goyf. Alright. Marsh Flats is an unusual one to find. I think our opponent might be on like a black or black and white fair-ish deck. So I think we're just going to slam this Fable while the only way they can answer it is with some kind of Force of Will. Alright, we're in. Have the biggest creature on the board. Not bad. I don't think we need to Fury away. Scalding Tarn from our opponent. They are playing blue. Okay. So we might just be looking at standard blue-black tempo here. So they can attack here and discard cards to the Frog, so they can kill our guy. So I don't really want to do that. Okay, I think we probably want to get rid of one mountain. I'm debating whether or not we want to get rid of the Fury. We could just play the Fury this turn. I think we just get rid of one mountain here. An Urza's Saga. Let's play the Saga. Let's crank in. Let's play a Vexing Bauble. Let's go attacks. If our opponent wants to block and pump cards into this, I'm A-okay with that. We can't cast Fury for free anymore. Alright, they're discarding a Daze. That doesn't do anything anyway. Might we will destroy this Psychic Frog here. I don't really want to play out this Painter into potential removal spells. I think we can wait a little bit on that one. They do have a slightly bigger Nether Goyf now. Something like a Ponder would be pretty good here. Yeah, that's going to grow it to a 4/5, which means our Fury can't just blow it up. Now, in theory, that shouldn't matter for us because we have a relatively clean line to the combo here. But Wasteland can get in the way and take out our Urza's Saga. We also have the option of just playing a fairer game and getting a Soul Guide Lantern. And we can just keep this creature under wraps size-wise. Another Psychic Frog. Okay. So I think we play our mountain out here. So we've got some options available to us. We could attack with the Goblin Shaman token. If they block, they have to discard cards and then our Fury can clean this up. I wonder if our opponent will take that. If we Fury here, our opponent has to put all of their cards into this Psychic Frog to keep it alive. Am I okay with them doing that? I think so. I'll take this. This is like half a card for us, and it's already generated us treasure. This will also grow our Saga, so if they don't block here, that's fine too. They should be blocking before discarding cards, really. They're going for it here. Right, they're discarding a Brainstorm. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or we can use the Spirit Guide. I like using the Spirit Guide here. Let's cast this. They can't interact because of our Vexing Bauble. Oh, that's a bad one for your opponent. That's all your cards gone. And we do just have a route to the combo next turn, as well as recurring Furies. Yeah, our opponent didn't need to pitch that Force of Will there. It doesn't do anything into the Vexing Bauble, but we've certainly made that mistake ourselves before. I don't think with the Force of Will, but maybe. Alright, so this is a Dismember, so we just have the win next turn with the Painter's activation. Do we want to save any life here? Does it matter? I don't believe it does. Add some mana. Go and find a Grindstone. That's Painter. Our opponent has no cards in hand. And our opponent scoops to that. Alright, so them pitching the Force of Will probably doesn't matter that much there, although they could have had the Brainstorm they exiled to try and dig their way out of this, but we're in a very solid spot where we are. Sideboarding. What did we do with this one before? I think we were into some Pyrogoyf action. I don't think we want the Ensnaring Bridge here. It's kind of a weird one because they can kind of manipulate it quite well with a Frog. I don't know if we're going to need these Abrades or not. So I think last time we went down on the combo a little bit here. So the Saga Lantern is an interesting one because it can make their Nethergoyf a lot weaker. I think, actually, did we go down on Furies before? So something like this, and we kept the Saga Lantern. I think that's what we did. Because Pyrogoyf is more likely to kill a Frog, because we're going to have various types in our own graveyard. Now, they can remove stuff from their graveyard as well. But I think this is what we're going with here. We already have the 6 blasts anyway. Maybe we should try the Ensnaring Bridge and see how that feels. But our opponent is almost certainly going to be fetching a basic island on their first turn. Maybe we get them with a Blood Moon if we try it, but I don't think it's worth it. This is going to be a no from me. We have 1 land and it disappears on its own. 2 4-drops that we can't cast. And we won't be able to cast for quite some time because of our disappearing land. So let's just throw this one back and see if we can get a better 7. Is that better? It's got a game plan. I'll give it that. It's nice to have an artifact, but that does leave us more vulnerable to various things. We don't have a mountain, actually, for the Arena of Glory, so I think I'll send that one back. So we can play it as a Saga game. Ideally, we want our opponent to ponder on turn 1. So if they make a threat, we make a Saga, they wasteland us, we're behind, and they're beating us down. Alright, a tapped land, that's perfectly fine. The Nethergoyf that they showed us suggests that they're on the tempo side rather than the Rescaminator builds. Alright, let's get our potential win condition up and running in the Urza Saga. And just crank out some tokens for a couple of turns and go from there. If they have a wasteland, that's obviously not great for us. There's the wasteland. They have a threat as well. That would be the worst case scenario here. They do have a threat. Okay, so worst case scenario achieved. If we play out an Ancient Tomb now, we can play the One Ring next turn. This does leave us susceptible to another wasteland. But that is the game sometimes. A Brainstorm. And they've already played a land, so we're not getting wastelanded this turn cycle. That's something. Are we able to just slam this One Ring? We will find out. Our Pyrogoyf should be pretty good at devouring Nethergoyfs. As long as we have one more type in our graveyard rather than our opponent has, then we're okay. Or one type that our opponent doesn't have. So at the moment we have Enchantment from our Saga, which means our Pyrogoyf will always be able to kill the Nethergoyf. Right, I think we just run it. If they have it, but we need to make some sort of inroads into this game. Alright, I think we're going to see some sort of counterspell. This could be a Brainstorm looking for a counterspell, but we could even see Spell Pierce here. There it is, sure. So no to this one. Next turn we can try and jam this Pyrogoyf around a daze. And then we have another Pyrogoyf after that. We've now got 2 types our opponent doesn't have in our graveyard, so our Pyrogoyfs are going to be large enough. Nile Spellbomb. That is actually quite good here. That will stop our Pyrogoyfs from killing our opponent's Nethergoyf. A Wasteland as well. Yep. This is why this tempo deck is so good. It just has really efficient threats and really efficient pieces to interact with. The One Ring. I guess we're doing it. Maybe we're not supposed to have the One Rings. Maybe they're too slow for this matchup. A Dragon Engine. That's something. Right, they're going to take out the Ancient Tomb probably. Or they're going to... So they could leave us with the Ancient Tomb because it hurts us. I think that's a consideration. Another Goyf. Alright. So our opponent's going to have pretty lethal damage pretty soon. Understood. Right, they're attacking. That's not going to make any difference here. No fear of Bowmasters this turn. I guess we're drawing some cards. How do we... Our opponent has an artifact in their graveyard. So our Pyrogoyf will not be able to kill their Nethergoyf if we were to use this Lotus Petal. How are we going to navigate this one? We can put a Dragon Engine into play. Then we take 3, 4, 5. So that does leave us alive, if you can call it living. I'll play this so that our creature resolves. This can trade with a Nethergoyf in theory. But we're going to have to find something pretty good off his One Ring activation. I don't think we can have anything that really works for us here. We're just going to die to our own One Ring. Maybe the One Rings aren't what we want in this matchup. Maybe we'll try it without the One Rings in game 3, because I don't think we're going to be able to win this one. Like, I've not played a Welderless Painter build before. I've not played a huge amount of Painter either, so I don't know all the minutiae of how you should be sideboarding in matchups. Fatal Push. That's us dead. Fair enough. Maybe we don't want the One Ring. It does feel like a good card if we're going sort of long into the mid-range elements of this game. But maybe we just don't want this and we just want some, like, Furies. And maybe we can try and just keep our Painters in so we've got more routes to combo. Try something like this. Maybe we'll try one of Ensnaring Bridge. Alright, we'll give this a whirl. We can do Saga Gaming here. I'll take that. Our opponent's mulligan to 6 so far. I think I'll play out this Lotus Petal. Our opponent might have a Thoughtseize. It's probably not going after our Lotus Petal, but our opponent might have pause in terms of what they're trying to play. We might consider Red Blast from turn 1. Alright, a Wasteland. Sure. We knew that was a possibility. Just get this Painter in. Early doors. One in blue. This way, if we draw a Grindstone next turn, we have a chance to just win the game. No Wasteland. I would have liked to have seen a Wasteland there, to be honest, because we need to leverage these lands in our hand somehow. Fatal Push, I'm expecting off of this swamp. Could just be a Nethergoyf, though. Yeah, is the push. Sure. Now I'm going to jam this Painter and keep the fear into our opponent's heart. I'll name blue, so our Pyroblast can hit their black creatures. I don't seem to draw a lot of Pyroblasts in these matchups. Right, there's a Misty Rainforest. A Phyrexian Dragon Engine. If they have an Orcish Bowmasters, they can kill our Painter's Servant, if they so wish. I think we play ourselves a Dragon Engine here. We are leveraging our life quite a lot into these Ancient Tombs. This isn't a great thing to counterspell because we get it back out of the bin. And then we get to refresh our hand with it. Force of Will, though. I don't want to play into Bowmasters here. It will cost them their entire Bowmasters to deal with this Painter, but this is just a more powerful object on defense here. Like, they play a Bowmasters, they can't attack into it, they just ping us for 1. Alright, they had a push anyway. Okay, so we're probably going to be bringing back our Phyrexian Dragon Engine next turn unless we draw something like a Fable, or maybe a Fury, or a Pyrogoyf, something of that ilk. Alright, they left a card on top with their Undercity Sewers. Doesn't bode amazingly well for us. We'll see. Nethergoyf. This is killable via Fury or Pyrogoyf. What have you got for us, deck? Is it going to be another land? It's not a land, it's a Grindstone. Let's get a Grindstone in. And play this, and we will unearth this now. We don't really care for this Ancient Tomb in our hand. This is an activated ability rather than a spell, so our opponent can't counterspell it. And Orcish Bowmasters. That certainly changes the amount I want to draw cards here. This is a choice here. If we draw 3 cards, it might take us closer to winning the game. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that would just turn off our Ancient Tomb if we draw the cards here. Do we need to? This is tough. If we draw here, what could we find? 1 Fury in the deck? I think we have to say no to this. It buys us more draw steps in total. This is going to attack. Okay, if it can't block, it's going to go away soon. Yeah, that Bowmaster was pretty good. Yeah, this blue-black tempo deck is stronger, in my opinion, than the Rescaminator build. Like obviously the Reanimate build just has this oops, I win button, which is nice. But this deck just has all the best cards in Legacy. And it's really hard to wriggle through it. Even if you've got some nice tools, it can just be lights out. Yep, so we're going to take 4 here. Right, Wasteland. They're going to take us off of Artifact mana. They are. Okay. They want us to tap our Ancient Tombs because that reduces their clock. And Abrade. So they have instant, land. Okay. We probably have to kill this Nethergoyf. They've got no cards in hand. Do we wait till our opponent's turn and then do it? Maybe if they tap for any spell, because then they can't bring it back. And that buys us an additional turn. So they put something like a Ponder on the stack here. We can just nail this Nethergoyf straight up. A Brainstorm. I think we'll do this now. Like, we could have waited for this Brainstorm to resolve and see what they do next, but then they got 3 cards to find what they want. And that maybe gives them access to save their Nethergoyf this turn. A Psychic Frog. Yep. Fury is no longer good here because of our Ancient Tomb mana. So what are we looking at here? Ensnaring Bridge? Not an Ensnaring Bridge. If we cycle this, we die, but we're dead next turn anyway. 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess we're not dead next turn, but our Ancient Tombs are off. If we play this Ancient Tomb and crack this, how are we supposed to win this game? So if we crack this, we go to 3, then we go to 1 with this, so we can't activate our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we only get to activate 1 Ancient Tomb. So we play and crack this, we end up with 2 red sources, and we're on 3 life. If we take the hit here, 1, 2, then these are off anyway. I don't think we can win this game. I think we're just going to sacrifice this and let our opponent ping us. An Engineer, that's too slow to matter here. This pings us to 2. I guess we can play this guy. They just jump the frog and kill us, yeah? You'd have thought our deck with 6 Pyroblast would be good into this matchup, but I'm not convinced it is. I think we lost this one twice now. It's really hard. Obviously, we didn't draw much in the way of Pyroblast there, and our hand was a little bit shaky. Getting nailed by like 2 Wastelands is pretty irritating there. Yeah, I think this is the best deck in the format, the blue-black tempo deck. Alright, that's 4 rounds in the book. So we are currently 2-2, so we're looking for a positive record in the final round. But we've been splitting some of our games at least when we've been losing. Okay, we can do a turn 1 Fable. Or we can do a turn 2 Fable and not lose our City of Traitors. I think I'm going to go the slightly conservative line of not losing the City of Traitors. That allows us to hold up this Red Blast 2 turns. I'll expose our Lotus Petal here to a Prismatic Ending. But that's not a card you see particularly often. None of the top 5 decks at the moment are white. Boseiju. A Mana Bond. Alright, we're that flavour of deck, are we? Are they going to put them all in straight away? Or do they need to have another turn of mulching or something? Alright, they're not going for it. Great Furnace. Let's just get our Fable up and running. So we are a deck that can get around our opponent just making a load of zombie tokens from Field of the Dead here. Which is what our opponent's strategy is. They're going to be casting like Winding Way and Mulch, and then dumping their whole hand into play and trying to make a bunch of 2/2 zombies as all the lands come in at the same time and see each other. Wasteland. Yep, here's the Mulch. Let's see what they reveal. Thespian Stage. Lush Portico, Forest. So our opponent might be able to assemble the Dark Depths combo this turn cycle. Alright, all the things coming in. There is the Dark Depths combo. Well, well, well. How are we supposed to win this one? Our looting here has got to be pretty darn hot. If we find a Painter and they don't make their Merit Legion response, we can blow up the land when they try and target it. Or we can blow up the stage once they've targeted it. Okay, so they're wastelanding us. So it's going to be even harder for us to get through here. Yes, I would like to discard some cards. I think we have to discard a land and a Fury here. It could be a Red Blast. Either is fine, I think, here. But an Abrade, that doesn't do anything. Let's attack and see if our opponent is going to make their guy or not. We're hoping that this makes our opponent nervous about going for the combo. But they don't have anything else going on. Alright, I think we just scoot this one up. That was quick. Okay, well, you know what's going to be good in this matchup is all these red spells here. So let's smash these in. The Ensnaring Bridge can help here too. We do not need the Furies. We want the City of Traitors to help power out our Blood Moon effects. Drawing extra cards versus Ensnaring Bridge, not ideal, but it's something we have access to. This is not a Vexing Bauble matchup, so those can come out. And the Red Blast do not look as good here, so I think we can at least trim on those. Maybe we will take out enough to run a couple of Faerie Macabres, because they can get rid of like Life from Malone shenanigans. Do I want something like a Pithing Needle to stop their combo elements? I think the Blood Moon is just doing the same thing already. I think we'll go in like this. So we don't have many ways of making the turn 1 Blood Moon, because we've only got 3 like Lotus Petal Simian Spirit Guides. So we have to have the right draw here to do that. This is close. We need to find a land to make this hand work. Can we do better? I think so. Okay. We can keep this one. This does a different thing. I don't really want to get wastelanded here. Do this and then blue. So this is... Next turn we just go. And even if they wasteland us here, we still get to go the next turn. The one thing we're playing around here is Force of Vigor. And when I say playing around, I mean it's a card that they can have. And we can't do much about it. I don't believe they're going to mana bond this turn. Oh, they are. Mulch, wasteland, wasteland. Okay, yeah, we have this game. Yeah, you can wasteland us. And they're doing it that way around, so it gets exiled in case that's relevant. And we know it can be because we have things like Pyrogoyf in our deck. Here comes the Grindstone. We no longer have to fear Force of Vigor. We'll float some mana. Attack our opponent. Get out of here, your deck. Are they going to show us the deck? They're not. Okay. So that went pretty well. I think we... So maybe we want the Vexing Baubles to stop Force of Vigor. Is that really what we're doing here? I don't think it is. We have Magus of the Moon and Blood Moon. And it only stops the thing that ends one of those. Alright. Then we're just going to go in again. The One Ring can buy us turns because they can do a little bit of a slower hand, then generate a load of guys, and then we can play the One Ring, give ourselves 3 extra cards, and also fog for a turn. Which is a card that I would very much like to have in a lot of situations against their deck. I don't think this is fast enough to interfere with what our opponent's doing. I think we either need to be having a really quick combo hand or a really quick moon hand. So I think we need to be disciplined here. This is a turn 1 Blood Moon. I will keep this. I don't think we want the Red Blast here. Leyline of the Void. Sure. They got an Exploration or a Mana Bond here? Are they going to go get Basic Forest? I bet they are. How rude. So this turns on Boseiju as a card that they can do stuff with. Are they going to Mana Bond with 4 cards? Let's find out. If they've got a Life from the Loam in hand, that's probably what they're going to do. Right, they do have the Life from the Loam. So we now get to Blood Moon our opponent. Now, the issue we have here is our opponent has the ability to keep dredging that Life from the Loam until they find a Boseiju. Oh, they found a Boseiju immediately. Okay. That is an awkward one for us. So next time they blow up our Blood Moon and get to carry on with their plan. It's tough out there sometimes. So what are we doing here? Guess we play out this Grindstone. I don't think our opponent's going to blow up our Grindstone over the Blood Moon. But they can just do that on the following turn. Yeah, on the play, our hand would have just immediately won the game. But on the draw, we are probably going to lose this one now. Okay, they're just going for this straight away. Yes, I'll get a land. Might as well. So we can fog for a turn through the Dark Depths with our One Ring. But it's not looking good. Now they have 2 basics. So they can Life from the Loam back the Boseiju, Thespian Stage, Dark Depths. And it's going to be very hard for us to try and combo with this Grindstone when our opponent's just going to have Boseiju every single turn. That Life from the Loam immediately hitting it. If we'd have just got like a couple of turns to do something, maybe that's okay. Our opponent's just right back in it. It might have been quicker for them to get back the Dark Depths, play the Dark Depths first, and then Boseiju us the turn after. Painter's Servant, you say? Oh, have we done it here? We might have done it here. Our opponent doesn't have a legendary creature. All right. Our opponent had a very lucky dredge from that Life from the Loam, and we were very lucky to draw our Painter's Servant then. I was not convinced we were going to get there, but we could have drawn another Blood Moon and then slowed our opponent down that way. But yeah, we managed to get there, and I will take that one. I think if we were in that situation at the end there, we probably don't play the One Ring if we drew something other than Painter there. We'd probably play pretty much anything else, and we try and use the One Ring as a turn when we get to Fog, because I think that's more important. That buys us effectively 4 cards because it's a draw step and 3 off the One Ring. So I think that would probably be the way we'd have played that. And, you know, maybe we hit the Painter there. Maybe we struggle a bit due to their Boseiju. But we won that one. We got lucky. That's what happens when you have an I win button in your deck. So let's talk about this list. Honestly, I don't think I missed the Welders that much. What I've been noticing when I've been playing Painter's Servant decks lately is the amount of artifacts in decks have been trimmed down a lot. It doesn't feel like you have as many artifacts as you used to when I was playing them like a year or so ago, which means that the Welders sometimes are just 1 mana 1/1s that don't actually do anything. So this build is saying we're not going to do that. We're just going to have these engineers which are hyper efficient because they get you a card. They get you something to do. And instead of having 8 welder effects, it required you to have an artifact in play where, you know, there were definitely times where we had an engineer and no welder, and no artifact this league. So we kind of avoid that situation by not having as many welder effects. Obviously, welder is a great card and does a lot. But the One Ring is just a card that we've got a load of fast mana, we power this out, it'll draw us our combo in a lot of matchups anyway. What I will say is that blue-black matchup doesn't feel great. I know it's obviously a small sample size, but you would think that our deck with 6 Pyroblasts would be able to beat that sort of list. And I'm just not sure if that's true. Like, maybe we didn't run that hot, maybe our hands weren't that good, maybe our opponent's hands were good and it's just a small sample size and a bit awkward. But it does feel like I would need to run that matchup quite a few more times to get the hang of it, and maybe then it becomes a little bit easier. From our opponent's side of the board, it's a lot easier to play that matchup than it is ours. They have all the blue spells to try and fix their hand, so they can get the things they want more readily. We have to try and marshal our starting resources and what we draw each turn. And, you know, we did just draw nothing but lands in one game. That was obviously awkward for us. But, I don't know, maybe trying to resolve 4 mana spells like the One Ring isn't the way to approach that matchup, and we need to sort of bore those out. Maybe you are supposed to try and cheese them with the Magus of the Moon. Maybe on the play that works, because that's before they get to do any fetch lands, and it's just, do you have Force of Will or not? And maybe that is the way, but if we're playing all these red blasts, are we really just trying to cheese that matchup using Blood Moon effects? Maybe, I'm not sure. If you're a Painter expert, please let me know if you think that is the correct thing to do, because I'm not convinced, but I'm also willing to be wrong. But overall, the list felt fine. I think Painter is a very strong archetype. I love having an I win button. I like the flexibility of cards like Fable and Mirror Breaker, which I think, despite however powerful it may have been in other formats, I think is a perfectly designed Magic card for the level that we're operating on in Legacy. It's very pushed, but it definitely feels like a Legacy card without being overpowered, and I do like how it's really rejuvenated a lot of red decks in the format. The Fury we saw be great and terrible. We had it just be a card that doesn't really kill anything, but we've also seen it have like a nice 5-for-1 presence, so we cast it, so we get our 3/3 body, and we kill 4 of our opponent's creatures. And you can't really say fairer than that, can you? The thing I really like about Painter as a deck is the basic core isn't as many cards as the basic core of some other combo decks. So you can have a lot of flexibility. So, you know, these slots are all flexible. Your Abrades here are pretty flexible. The amount of blasts you run is a little flexible. How many Vexing Baubles and stuff you run. There's a lot of ways of tweaking this deck to your playstyle. I know some people like to run Khan in their deck. That's another thing alongside the One Ring where it's like a big 4-mana haymaker that works and does stuff. The bonus about Khan is that against Null Rod style effects, the One Ring is obviously not great, whereas Khan can just go and get you stuff that doesn't care about that. It can just get you things that you're not trying to activate, just, you know, useful artifacts out of the board. So you can still lattice lock people under a Khan even if they've got a Null Rod, as an example. Also, the Khan can plus on a Null Rod and then allow you to kill it with your Furies or Abrades or whatever. So there's definitely some play to the Khan here. And maybe I'll play one of these builds at some point. There's a lot of different ways you can take Painter, and the Painter Discord is a great place to talk there. It's one of the friendlier Discords out of all the Legacy Discords, to be honest, and all the people there are lovely. Not that anyone else isn't lovely, but I've just spent quite a bit of time there, and everyone's really welcoming and just loves the archetype. And they played it back in the day when it wasn't so good, and now it is a properly good deck. It's nice to see them having their heyday. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this one. Please remember to like and subscribe to help the channel out. And if you know anyone who's interested in Legacy content, by all means, share my content towards them. I do appreciate all the new subs and likes and follows. And maybe one day I can earn minimum wage from making Magic the Gathering content. The dream, right? Alright. Thank you so much for watching this one. I do love Painter, and I hope you do too. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low-cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.